I am Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today for this fantastic big art quest, I'm going to explain what's the difference between all this black paint and tell you some stuff about the color black you might not already know. And it's stuff that as an artist you would want to know, so even if you're an experienced artist, if you don't know this information, it will probably be very helpful to you. And if you're a brand new artist, I'm going to take what is generally presented as a bunch of complex information and I'm going to make it simple and easy and direct to understand. On the mic today is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
He does a very important job. Besides tracking me with cameras to show you like what I'm mixing or what I'm doing on the canvas, he also reads the comments. I don't get to see the comments during a live from where I'm at because mostly when we had them on the monitor, I just read the comments. So and I didn't do my job of, teaching painting. So he does that for us now, and so that's very important. If you have a question, we answer all questions that we see and put those in all caps. Be really nice to our moderators. We really appreciate them. We have several in the community, so the show stays very family friendly. And I'm excited about today. Are you excited about today?
I am.
I'm so excited about today. Black. I've been singing Back in Black like over and over and over in my head. Alternated with I Am Iron Man, but mostly black. My mat is in a weird position. There,
is it? Okay. All right.
I have a comfy mat for under my feet, and my comfy mat got moved.
Did it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I was like having to stand half on, half off. So there are a lot of blacks. Let's start with this. There's a lot of blacks, and this is very drilled down to the acrylic painter. Oil painters have an even more complex, diverse set of colors that they can work from. And a lot of that is about how long oil paint as a media has existed, and the different processes that have already come. The fact that there's a camp of oil painters. I'm having mic problems again where it's out of the tape.
Oh, okay. I'll come fix you.
There's a camp of oil painters that like very historic, traditional processes that they're stun hands.
Oh, well, see, here's part of the issue is you.
Oh, okay. That's what's happening. Okay, so it keeps getting moved.
It keeps being pulled down by your little... Oh.
There we go.
Push that out a little bit. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you guys for putting up with my little head mic. It's real funny because like the experts are like, you need a live, you're not an aerobics instructor, but I like this, so I'm sticking with it.
We've had, the lav mics, we always have issue with them.
We have issues.
On to the painting.
So that's what it is. So the oil painters have a lot more color choices. Some of them get quite costly, and they have some different choices. We're going to drill down on what's possible for you to run into, likely for you to run into as an acrylic artist, which is 4 blacks. There's Mars Black, Carbon Black, Bone Black, and Ivory Black. Those are the 4 that you guys are going to generally run into.
That's a lot of blacks.
That's a lot of blacks. Why are there so many blacks? Well, in art, there's always a reason.
Okay. Some
of the reasons are sometimes silly, but mostly there's actually a really good reason because artists, they don't like to mess around with stuff that doesn't have a purpose. There would be no point, but there is some weirdness in it. So there's 4 blacks, and then there's another type of black that you guys ask me about a lot, which is chromatic black. But when you're asking me about chromatic black, you ask me the color, how do I mix black? Oh. And then in ours, so we make a chromatic black, which probably wouldn't help you at all. But that's what we're talking about. You ever hear anyone say chromatic black, they're talking about colors that are mixed that to the eye register as visually black, even though they are in no way black, and they're not black because they have 0 black pigment in them. They have none of the particles that constitute any of the traditional black pigments inside of them, and that is about color theory, and it's really came about because of the Impressionists, if you guys didn't know that. Because the Impressionists felt that black didn't exist in nature, and you should only paint what you see, so they came up with a way of creating deep shadows that did not have black. But portrait painters were like, super need this color to do what I do. And so it's never really gone away. And there's been some upheaval and controversy in the world of blacks. Right? And something to understand, again, always read your paint tubes because sometimes some of the processes, none of these are good to inhale. So don't, in general, if you ever sand your canvas, please just put a mask on. You just do that.
Yeah, treat your material safety. Read the description on your bottles.
On your bottles. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the traditional black paints. And we're going to talk about bone black and ivory black.
Okay.
right?
You have some down there? We
I
can see
do.
it.
I have some right here. Look at this. I put this out. I made this yesterday. So there's ivory and here's
I'm gonna
bone
even go over and look. What is
in a
that?
pulled down swatch.
What are you
Here
doing?
are the tinted, swatches of ivory and bone.
I'm just looking over your other shoulder.
And here's the glazes. And what you're going to really basically notice is they're crazy similar. Why would that be?
I don't. You look at me like I would know.
I don't know. I just like to ask you questions just in case you have. Because, okay, so like, you guys hear this stuff for the first time. He has to listen to me, like, putting together, like, my plan. So he actually does sometimes hear this stuff before you guys. All right, so here's what it essentially is. Historically, right, black, like during like the Romans and stuff like that, there was bone black. That was charred bones, right? And that was considered a common black. That was something you just use on any project. And then there was something called ivory black, which was actually made from ivory, and it was charred bones and they were ground up, and it was you really only see this in oil paint anymore, the true ivory black. It doesn't look anything like bone black. It's got a luminosity, it's got a depth that bone black in general does not present. Now, the current tradition of making real ivory black, which is in that hundreds and hundreds of dollars a paint tube, is to source responsibly, from animals that have naturally died and stuff like that, which has driven up the cost even more. You're not ever going to run into that. This is acrylic paint. And for the purposes of what you're doing, you're going to find bone black and ivory black behave pretty much the same for you, and that the name differences are between brands. So I've got some here. I've got Liquitex has got ivory black, which clearly it is not, right? And then Golden here has bone black. And these really, in all my testing and all my research, for the purposes of acrylic paint, other than what you think of brands or how they manufacture, they're really similar for your experience as an artist. They are a more reasonable tinting strength and used to be the preference of oil painters. If you mix these into white, they don't overwhelm the white so quickly, or they don't overwhelm a color so quickly. And anytime you pull one of these two out, you want to be able to tint your tone, and you want it to not be like too much for your paint.
Now, Karen wants to know: is there a tone or a shade difference between the brands, or are they pretty much the same?
Not that I can see. There probably is some type that a chemist or somebody with even more developed eyes than I have, but I went through this and through this and through this, and
robot eyes might be able to tell. But
yeah, I did pretty well on my test, but for the purposes of my painting, I mixed it into white. I used it in different processes. I hued it with different values, and I got the same.
Interesting.
So I think for the purposes of you as an artist, these behave the same, and because they're not the real product, right?
There's no bones or ivory in it.
Well, there might actually be bones, but they're for sure.
There may be bones, but probably not ivory.
There for sure is not going to be ivory in the acrylic paint. I haven't ever seen it. If you guys see it, oh my gosh, tell me about it. I'm going to order a tube. I'm going to try it out. I'll feature it on the show. Carbon black and Mars black. Mars black came in later. Mars black is a very recent invention, and it is a more opaque pigment. It is a more stable pigment. It's made from iron. It's like synthetic iron oxide is what it comes from, and it is sort of related to, like, you would think red or yellow oxide, but it's chemically. So here's the deal. In acrylic painting, Mars black is for classes, for workshops, for places, the black you're going to see the most. Most acrylic painters will use the Mars black.
Mm-hmm.
It just never got really picked up in oils. And then we have carbon black. All right? Carbon black is the oldest black. It's something like they're saying it's like 5,000 plus.
And it's like, is it made from soot or something?
Yeah, it is made from burning gas or soot. It's it's also sometimes referred to as lamp black. All of these have different names. And lamp black, you'll sometimes hear carbon called lamp black.
Interesting. Right.
So when you're talking about carbon black, you're often talking about lamp black. These are all Series 1 paints. So they're never going to be expensive. Now, I have a brand opinion. I am in no way sponsored, and I am not speaking for any particular company in any way. I'm just telling you my opinion. You know how I like the titanium white from Golden? Like, if I can only get one, that's like my favorite.
Yeah.
The carbon black from Golden, in my opinion, having painted with a lot, is the best of the carbon blacks.
Gotcha.
The process, how they make it, I feel it's richer, it's deeper. When you get into this black, and you can really see it on this graphic, I don't know if the zoom in can catch it, right? This is more, Mars
Can
is
you
a
tilt that
more
paper?
brown black.
Yeah, tilt the paper just a hair. You can look over at the screen and see. Yeah. Oh,
Can
yeah.
you see it?
Oh, yeah, you can.
All right. So this is the Mars black, and this is the carbon black. If you were to change out in the middle of the painting between these two blacks, can you see the problem it would create
can
for
you
you?
tilt that just a little bit more so the light catches it? There we
Like
go.
which way?
There, I can see there. There, right there.
Okay. So the two to the right are ivory and bone, and you can see they're in much more transparent black. Right? This is much more brown. This is much more cool. It's so deep. This black is so deep. And it's a very potent, powerful black. So that's something that, to think. So carbon black is your darkest, most neutral black.
Okay.
Mars black has got a warm brown undertone. Stuff you might not know. If you were just sitting in the store going, why am I looking at all this black? This would be why, because artists like to have weird little depths of control into everything. If you were having a lot of trouble when you were using black and it was overwhelming your painting, you could just switch back to ivory or bone black.
All right, so let me ask you a quick question here. Now, where was it? Kale, no, it was Patricia asked, is Payne's Gray a black?
No, Payne's Gray is a gray.
But is it? Is it
Payne's Gray has black pigment in it.
okay, so it's not a chromatic gray?
It's not not
Okay.
a chromatic gray. Definitely, and you can make a Payne's Gray when you add blue to a black.
Interesting.
We're going to actually tint and tone some blacks and talk about how in painting, it's really wonderful to go ahead and tint or tone or alter your black paints. You know, in the Girl in the Red Dress, we added the umber to our gray mixture, and that really created some warmth in the painting. If you add a cool tone, we've got a tree coming up where we add a bit of blue to all the gray, and that creates this cool, frigid feel. Ooh. And so by tinting or toning your blacks, that's what you get.
Okay. So,
Now.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. Now. I'm so excited about that.
What you going to do next?
So
I
I
got more
also,
questions, too,
sometimes I get asked a lot, and I'm hoping maybe we can see it here. Let's see if we can see it here.
Oh, there? Okay.
Yes. All right. Do you see all that? You see those little faint lines?
Yeah, let me make sure I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this top line is a permanent liner. This here is India ink. This is a paint pen, and this is a Sharpie at the bottom.
Yeah, you can
And
really see it.
this is why pen doesn't work over your black if you're trying to match your black. You know, I've talked about that there's a sheen to the pen.
Yeah.
This is the sheen.
You can really see it there.
Yeah. See the sheen?
Mm-hmm.
That's something a lot of artists don't know. Now, if you were intentionally looking to create this sheen, well, this is fantastic.
Now, can I say something here?
Yeah.
Holding it right there, the matte, right in this camera, you can really see the difference between Mars and Carbon Black, where Mars looks... Here it looks much more matte and dark, even though it has a similar sheen. The carbon looks a little.
There it is. You see it this way? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how the carbon looks darker when it catches the light the right way, but Mars looks darker in the bright reflection.
And you can kind of see that ivory and bone look a lot like each other. Like there may be a difference, but
yeah, those are so interesting.
And so that's why there's 4. And there's more for oil painters. Oil painters get a bunch more. They got one that turns green when you add white to it. They just get a lot more colors. Of course, some of their colors are like, they have crazy recipes.
Now, so Ian was just asking, are there any blacks that are more glossy than others? And I guess
yeah, the carbon is much glossier than the other blacks.
And it's weird there because it's only, you
can see it here.
But it is glossy, but at the same time, it's...
When you see it with your naked eye, it's quite glossy.
Ah.
If you come over and look at here in the naked eye...
I can see it from here. You can tell the difference.
Yeah. Mars is much more matte. Carbon is much more shiny. And if you're intentionally looking, if you're trying to do a black on black painting, knowing how these pens work on here, knowing the difference between these three blacks, you could literally use just different blacks to create a black on black on black painting. And now look at you, you're a minimalist painter. Aren't you excited? So you can see, like, I tinted all these grays, and you kind of get a sense of the different types of grays that it makes. And it took a lot more pigment to get these grays than it took here. It took barely any to get that, but it took a lot to get these.
So I'm gonna have a bunch of questions here for you real quick. Going back over that thing, the sheet you just had there, that one there. Now, are those done over or under the paint?
Over.
Those were over the paint. Okay. So because she was just wondering if that was demonstrating coverage or showing.
No, that's showing what pen is. Because one of the number one things that'll happen is that people will send me a picture and they're like, I was trying to finish my branches and I did it with a Sharpie. And their branches that were done with a Sharpie don't look like the base of their tree.
No. Cool.
And that's because the different sheens, they're just, even though it's all black, it's not really the same black. So beyond the archival nature. But even so, I mean, I used India ink, which is pretty archival and light, fast, and permanent. And it's probably the closest, but it still just has, so the Sharpie has a brown tint to it.
No.
And then the paint pen is black, but it just really shows up. The India ink has a gold tint.
Push it down a little bit.
And then the permanent marker has...
Yeah. No. Now, let me ask you this. This may be a totally dumb question, but I'm just...
No, there's no dumb questions about this. This is like crazy. There's not a collated, simple explanation of black paint anywhere. I've been, like, looking.
All right, so
well, that I could find, and I looked. But there might be. But none that I could find.
So I remember seeing those little refillable paint pen things. Couldn't you just squirt some liquid paint
and then that would totally work.
Cool. Okay,
you could put your... If you were using carbon black to paint your trees, you could put some carbon black in one of your paint pens, one of your fillable paint pens, and then you would be fine. But it's not wrong to use different blacks in a painting. It's only a problem if you didn't know they were going to look different. If you knew they were going to look different and you were like, I want two different kinds of black, that would be fantastic. But if you didn't even know, that would mess you up. And think, the craft paints, I didn't even touch the craft paints. They all have a bunch of blacks, which are really tinted or toned blacks. But they have a bunch, and you might think they were the same, but they wouldn't be the same. Every time I would put a swatch out, they'd all look a little different. It'd be like a quilt of black.
So that leads me to two other good things here. So one, there's a black you haven't touched on, that gesso black. And
that's not black. That's tinted gesso with a black.
Okay, so
it's not an official black paint. That's just gesso that they tinted. You could tint your gesso with carbon black, Mars black, bone black, or ivory black and paint your canvas, which is what I have behind me, is a gessoed canvas. I have no idea what tint they use, what they're putting in their gesso, but that's what that is, color gesso.
So that answers the question of...
If you want to know, I'm sure Liquitex or Golden or Matisse or Utrecht, all the big companies, Sonlier... there was another one. There's a grip of large paint companies that have websites that tell you what they did because they're proud of it. They'll probably all tell you what's in their tinted gessos.
So there's two requests basically happening.
Okay, happy to request.
First request is a paint pen exploration quest where you get some different paint pen mechanics and we put some paint in there. And
that's actually something I need to do anyways. I need some good paint pens.
Yeah, and then the other one is more black and white studies.
The paint pen that I used on here, which was pretty good, and this one is the white one, was this fantastic one, and I did like it.
Now, there's a lot of question about the refillable kind.
This is the Montana paint pens.
Is that
I like these Montana acrylics. If I do a paint pen review, I'm for sure going to...
include those?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd say this was probably the closest to Mars.
All right. And so the other question is that could you do another quest on black and white, where we just actually go in and do a painting with just black and white and talk about the different blacks and how you might use them and the different, like whites. So that's what they're asking.
Sure I can.
You're like, I don't know.
Sure. We can talk. I mean, really, we're talking about monochromatic or neutral paintings. Yeah. A lot of our paintings are kind of exploring these. And you have to realize, so I've got carbon black, but what if I used titanium white versus zinc versus buff versus unbleached versus ivory, right? Because there's a whole bunch of white paints, isn't there? And then how they mix with the black changes up. So there's a lot of combos of subtlety here. Let's talk about chromatics.
Real quick, before you go into chromatics, on
Okay.
coverage here.
No, we can cover this. We got time. Because we're
no.
going to do this. We're going to do kind of like maybe at some point a shorter mini explanation of this for people who just need the like rundown, like, what is all this stuff?
All right, so, well, okay, well, then in that case, I'm going to say, hey, everybody. It's nice to see you. We have all these faces with us. You know, we have over 170 people here. It's like 175 people right now.
Then you are the people that know what the heck is going on in the art store. Don't you feel lucky today? If you watch this on live or you watch this on replay, you are one of the few people looking at the wall of black who goes, oh, yeah, that's the charred bone thing. That's the Mars. That's the modern thing. Carbon, that's the soot thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
So Vicky was
Mars, warm, soot, deep,
Vicky was
neutral.
like, do you welcome new people?
Do we welcome new people?
Do we welcome new people?
Vicky, welcome.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi.
If you're new here, if not, we welcome
You
all the
can
new
start
people
the
here.
quest. The whole intention of the quest is for this to be a journey that you're self-creating. These are going to be up forever. You can come, you can start this process. You don't have to do it in order. You don't even have to do every one. Just, this is the idea of this was to just make it easy for new painters to go into the art store, know what everything is, not feel any anxiety. And also, I just want you guys to feel comfortable in every art setting that you're in, so
Yeah.
you never feel out of place. That's how welcoming we are. I never want you to feel out of place here or out in the world. I want you to be able to walk into a gallery and be like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah, they definitely would love to see some more videos on black and white, like when do you use unbleached white and how to use titanium white. Like how do you use all those whites and blacks? There's some
Yeah,
definite questions.
well, because it's confusing. It's like, why are they there? It's really just to give you options and choice and transparency and all kinds of things.
Now, I know that this one may be a little harder for you, but Janine was asking, Montmartre Dimensions has the Dimensions range has a lamp black.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, or do you know how that's different?
It's carbon black. Lamp black and carbon black are same black.
Gotcha.
Now, they may have a process that's different than golden and how they make it. And I've never talked to any of the reps at Montmartre, so I wouldn't know that. But I know that company fits my profile, which is large company website, cares about its consumer base. And you could probably write them and say, hey, is your lamp black different? You know, how is your...
Yeah.
Because most places will want to tell you why their chemistry is different, how they're special on the market, and that's always kind of fun to discover.
Yeah.
Right. I don't specifically know. And again, you know, Matisse has a line of colors, but generally when you're looking at the blacks, like Mars black is the same as iron black is the same as black iron oxide. Lamp black and carbon black, same thing. And for the purposes of acrylic right now, I'm feeling like, in my opinion, internets, you're welcome to tell me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, that bone black and ivory black in the base acrylic lines are essentially the same deal.
So
Hopefully that's helpful. I know that's helpful.
what does permanent black mean?
What is permanent
When
black?
it says permanent on the tube, what does that mean? When it says permanent black, because there's a lot of people who are asking, like, what does that mean when it says permanent black?
I would have to look at your tube of black. Is the color itself permanent black, or is it just say the words permanent black? Because some blacks are not light fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So can you explain what that means, though? I know what that means, but you explain what it means on light fast, like it'll fade?
Yeah. So some colors, some pigments. So one of the main differences, like say between illustration and fine art, can be the what I, you know, as an illustrationist, one can use pigments or colors that are very temporary. They don't last. They fade very quickly. And so, especially in markers and things, they'll try to tell you the duration of a product, right? So the words archival or permanent.
In this case, it's the
will
color
be
name.
implying how long it's going to stay vibrant before it fades.
So in this case, they're calling the name of the tube, the name of the color is permanent black from Hobby Lobby Master's Choice. Not seen that.
I have not seen that.
We could go check that out.
I will check it out.
There's a Hobby Lobby not too far from here.
Because it's not actively discussed, I'm going to assume at this stage, but I'm going to do some research, that it's part of one of the four.
Yeah.
And then how I would discern that is I would pull out a swatch and be like, does it have a slight brown tint, or is it very deep and neutral, or is it slightly blue? Is it transparent or very opaque? If it tends to be transparent and cool, then I'm going to think it's like really kind of like a bone or ivory. If it's warm and opaque, I'm going to think it's like Mars. And if it's deep and neutral, I'm going to think it's like carbon or lamp.
Yeah.
But it may be a whole nother option. They just is something every paint company can have. See, all the paint companies can have a color that their chemists invent. I'm not going to tell you the story, but there's a really cool story about unbleached titanium.
We'll say that for the white.
So you have to wait for the white quest.
So I'm going to real quick jump out here and say hi to everybody, because we have this huge crowd. We've got over 180 people here. And I'd just like to say thank you for showing up. And please, definitely, if you do any little doodles or sketches or stuff, please post those up, because I'd like to see them after here. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you can hit the little thumbs up button, it really helps us, because we like to see the Sherpa dance. If we get to 300, we always like to do that. But all right, see, look, I brought that all
Make
rolled
the
off.
Sherpa dance.
I made that. Look, I said all that in one breath. Like
You did say it all in one breath. I'm so impressed.
I had it all together.
You are together.
Like,
You're
I know what I'm doing.
amazing. I loves you.
I love you too. I just felt I was just this modern moment of, hey, look, I said that without stumbling on myself.
You should be totally thrilled.
I did it live.
Chromatic black.
All right, back to the
So people go, can you mix black? Well, no, you can make black. But there is something called chromatic black, which is colors that are so deep to the eye that in a painting they will appear black. And I'm going to tell you a couple recipes. There's a ton of recipes out there. There's like Prussian blue with alizarin crimson. You know, there's ultramarine, cad red deep, and naphthol. Will make it. But I'm going to show you a couple. One of the ones I'm going to show you is phthalo green and quinacridone red.
Okay.
So there's my little phthalo, and I've got my quinacridone. And it's real interesting. I might even kind of demo a quick painting sketch of what chromatics look like in a painting when you're trying to do a tonal study with them. But basically, it's you just pulling out 1-to-1
So you didn't actually
of these two colors, right? And
Whoops.
Together,
Boy,
they make a color, and you can see this against the black background. That looks pretty black, doesn't it?
I'm gonna get over to it.
I will show you like blacks around that. So if I were to say put Mars black by that, let's see if you can kind of see the differences. And I'm going to operate my caps correctly today. I'm so glad Golden is retooling their caps. I love the paint company. I hate their caps so much.
Can you push that little forward a little bit so we can?
Which? This?
The other canvas or the that palette paper. Perfect. I
Okay.
just see it a little better there.
All right. So here's, I mean, obviously it's not the same as a black with pigment. Chromatic blacks have no actual black pigment in there. If I added black to this, it would no longer be a chromatic black. So if somebody were to enter a painting in a show, and they were to say on their entry when they're explaining their artist process, that's actually pretty cool though, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you tilt that to the screen just a little bit? There you go. Yeah, you tilt it up just a bit. Yeah.
Do you want me to take it over to the other one?
Sure.
All right. Just kind of show you this one here.
Oh, see, when it gets into that light, you can really see the difference.
Yeah, but they're both black, aren't they, to your eye?
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing I'm gonna do. I might do it on that black canvas, but I'll demo you something there. Something quick though. It'll be like quick sketch or paint sketch or something really cool where I show you what some of that can do. So that's one. Another one that you can have is ultramarine blue and either burnt sienna or burnt umber. Either one of those will work. I want a really deep color, so I'm going to do these two. I'm going to pull out about the same amounts of blue and umber.
Now, which one's your go-to? What's your go-to color? Black.
For chromatic or for just painting?
For just painting.
Mars.
Why do you do that?
Mars has a high pigment load, It's very opaque, so I'm not having, like if I were to do ivory or bone black on the silhouette, I'd have to paint the silhouette several times. Oh, it's okay, because I'm going to bring it back over to here. Oh, this is just so cool. I just, and again, all right, so here's the ultramarine and the burnt umber. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Now, if you were to say add some white to those mixtures, you would get to see what their gray values were.
Now, do you think that there's an advantage to mixing your own black when it comes to harmonizing with the color palette?
An advantage for harmonizing with the color palette. So I would say that if you were somebody that was painting like plein air painting, yeah, huge advantage to your work in general. If you were doing a portrait painting, I would say definitely stick with your traditional blacks, tints, and tones.
Interesting, yeah.
And this is just based on having a bunch of plein air painting friends and a bunch of portrait friends and listening to them, discuss endlessly. Because, when you art nerd out, and people will be like, this is all the reasons why, and I listen always. And then in my own experience, I think when you're trying to paint something outdoors and you're trying to show the incredible luminosity of light and the way the dappled sun hits around a tree and the shadows are there, chromatic blacks are by far preferential for me. But could somebody come in with carbon black and blow my mind? Sure.
Why is it called Mars Black? Is it because of the iron oxide? Mars is red?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I didn't actually see a historical reason for that. The more stuff about it historically is that what's interesting is that ivory black did not dry well in oils, and so you could never use it in an underpainting. And if you know oil painting processes, there's a lot of tonal study that happens on a canvas where things are kind of tonally put in and then paint is layered over it. So if you have paint seeping through, like a red or a black seeping through, it could really ruin your painting in 5 years.
Yeah.
Because the color never stops moving through the pigment layers. And so that was a real issue for ivory. So Mars Black was developed because it dried really quickly in terms of oil and didn't seep through as much. Weird thing. That's the historical stuff I know there. I'm gonna tint this. I'm gonna take some white over to that first chromatic mix, which was the phthalo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the phthalo. It was the green and the red.
Okay.
And this, it does look like a gray, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. That nice kind of gray, and it's very rich in color. And I'm going to bring some white over to this mixture. And it's a different kind of gray. It's a cooler. And that makes sense because it's the blue and the brown, so it's going to be cooler. So can you see how this is warmer and this is cooler?
Oh, yeah.
And I'll take this over under the sheet. And, maybe I'll put some gray above here just with the black and white, and we can kind of look at all the differences. And you wouldn't think, and I was so excited to share this with everybody, is you wouldn't think that black and white would be this interesting. Would ya?
No.
And now you can really see the brownish value that Mars Black has underlaying it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Right? So this and this, that's very interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is, boy, if you didn't have any of this, and I have been places. So here's what's a cool thing. You want to throw down your art chops, on occasion. And John knows this, I'll go to these, live events, because I like to paint live. I got the courage for it. But I always forget something like my white or my black. And I was actually somewhere and had forgot my black, and it was figure study, and I was just able to do chromatic black.
Huh.
And it just tripped everybody out because they knew I didn't have any black paint. And they're like, I don't understand how you're getting those values. And I'm just saying, this is something that sometimes experienced artists might not know, because you can't know it all. There's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know. You can't know it all. You can know a lot. Google will help you with the rest, and paint companies will help you where they can, but it's just a lot to know. So now you know something in the art store that a lot of people don't know, which is kind of bananas and awesome and epic. right? So if you're just working something in chromatic black,
Uh-huh.
right, you would just have those colors. I can just gesso back over this. I don't know what I'm going to do. So, you know, lots and lots of things that you can do in, you know, in your studies, because you've got these tones. Do I want to use a white canvas or a black canvas?
I don't know.
He's like, I don't know.
I don't understand those things. It's all.
I'm going to just show you kind of how this goes.
It just looks like it's all full of stars from here.
Might
Yeah.
have to switch to a bigger brush.
The camera is like, I can't see it at all.
The camera's. Why don't we do it on a
I
white canvas?
Okay.
Bring me a white canvas and I'll do it on a white canvas. Because I want you guys to see all the values and hints and hues and stuff like that. Can you throw up for me a headshot of maybe somebody crying?
Oh boy. There's not a challenging thing.
Is that not a challenging thing?
Off to
I
paint
guess
my
someone
photo.
said John headshot of somebody crying.
Do.
What can you do with this, you know, paint? That's always what's so interesting to me. What can you do with chromatics? You know, we're here together, and we could be done already. If you guys do you guys want to be done already?
I think they're enjoying it.
Okay, because I can show you some extra little goofiness if you're up for it.
Okay, go for it.
All right, you finding a portrait?
I am not. I'm working on it.
He's working on it. I'm gonna let him work on it. What's great is it doesn't really matter how dirty my water gets. Probably will need some more water because boy, it messes up your water. So yeah, you know, things in art are. I was like, okay, there we go. No. All right, yeah, fine. No, the other one was good. That was
All
good.
right.
The mustache was good.
All right, let's go up. We gotta find it.
These are all really beautiful people. I kind of like that crazy guy.
I think that was
I also like the cat face, but that's, you know.
at Salvador Dali. So you can look at him.
So I'm going to just put this in. You can let them know what we're kind of looking at. But, you know, this is going to just be a sketch. I just want you to see how awesome this can be in studies.
Yeah.
So if I was to say, hey, I've got to do a little study. I've got this little thing in, and I just want to do a value study. I don't have any black paint. What does that end up looking like? Functionally in the real world of painting, right? Okay. Alright, pull that in there. What I'm doing right now is I am sketching in this picture John has sent me. It's a 3/4 view of the face, and so one of the things you'll always notice is the brow bone will always jut out and come in for the eye socket. We'll pop you a cheekbone down to this, and that kind of tells you an oval. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing. And so if I know my eye line is here, if I take this, bisect this straight here, come between these two spaces in half, and then between this space and this space in half, now I've got my eyes where my nose sits, where my mouth sits.
Gotcha.
Right? And then since it's 3/4, I know that I've got a partial view of an eye here, and then, you know, this sort of view eye here, but we're going to be very, like, just discuss it a little bit. I love doing the upper lip. And then just hitting a little lip shadow. It says a lot about what's happening. So I've got my red and my green. Right, no black. But I'm going to get to do a whole fun study. Paint study. Paint studies are sort of fun. I often end up gessoing over them just because, you know, they don't really necessarily have a purpose past what I'm working on, but it's fun to look at things a little bit and to sketch and paint. And sometimes we value the canvas so much, which we shouldn't do, right? Because it can just be gessoed over. That we get to valuing the canvas so much that we forget to just think about how we might sketch. So in doing faces, you're always painting shadows and hairlines. Just something you might not know. And in doing chromatic studies, what's wonderful is that you have so much possibility within the paint that you might not even be aware of. And you can be much more sketchy and experimental with your paint than you might know. You know, sometimes as artists we want to be really drilled down. Is there any questions?
Oh, right now we're all just sort of watching you paint when you're sort of like, wow. I think everyone here is definitely enjoying the extra time with you. They're all commenting on like, okay, we're just sitting back and watching this and seeing what's going on. There's lots of, and truly everyone is just enjoying what I'm sort of going, what's happening, you know? So, yeah, paint on, Sherpa.
Paint on, Sherpa.
Whoop, I'm on the wrong page. I'm even watching you. I'm just watching you over here, so.
I'd like to eventually have my references right there.
So,
you know.
Is there any help for varnishing over black to prevent bleeding and smearing using spray varnish maybe or something?
Okay, so one of the things that is a huge problem is that sometimes the black lifts. Now, I've never had any of my pro paints lift on me.
Uh-huh.
I have, however, had student paints lift on me during the varnishing process. So if you painted your paintings in like Basics or Loft or any of the student paints, I would definitely do a spray varnish over a brush varnish because that'll prevent the moving.
Gotcha.
And that's really what you want to do. You know, so you can always get in and really, might even go bigger brush, work through this stuff faster.
What you gonna grab there?
I need to grab a bigger brush. I'm just looking for a bigger brush. I gotta get a bigger boat. I need more of this quinacridone.
So I'm gonna say thank you guys for coming. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And give us a big thumbs up there, because we always like to try to get thumbs up are really a way that you can help let YouTube know you like what you saw, and helps us get the word out there. What else? Oh, hello! Thank you all to all of our moderators who are coming and hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. It's been really great. And I am supposed to say that to tell Cinnamon that I love her. She's prepping me for a compulsory art competition at the college right now, and she's loving it. That's way from Janine. And just generally, there's been a lot of resounding thank you for the time that you're spending with them today. So,
if you are going through something in your art college competitively, I wholly recommend doing a piece entirely in chromatic. Just because it allows, well, one, and judges like it.
And I'm going to give some shout outs here to DJ Divine, Christy. We had a bunch of little brushes, I think. Aria, Sadie, Heather, Ellie, and Colleen. So, and all of our friends who visit us. And
See, we're putting that base layer of something as a foot here.
And Jen. I'm over here being silly. Just
Are you being silly?
I'm like, I got my romper room.
Get your romper room.
I'm saying hello to everybody.
I like that, though. I like that you do that.
And I appreciate all of our moderators here. They really help make sure I get I'm able to capture the questions, and Lisa's doing a fantastic job of helping me with those.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
And we can, if you guys want to see what this sort of looks like going in, if you were to do something all with this, do we need to do this? But we don't actually need to do it. But I suspect you might be interested.
So
some things that I did here to talk to you guys about, like when you're making painting decisions, because you ask me a lot, like how do I get this painting done? How do I make these choices?
yeah.
So what I'm relying on here is, I know in design it's much more interesting if my face is not central.
Okay.
Right? If my face isn't central and some of it is on and off the canvas, then it's going to be a much more interesting dynamic study. I am just putting a base of gray in my sketch, and I'm being very sketchy because what I'm trying to say is this is rough and this is brutish, and these lines and this work is not supposed to be tight or considered in that way. And I'm using a big brush and scrumbly strokes, and I'll come in and refine with smaller brushes. I'm going to keep this sketchy furtive nature happening here. And I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm going to leave the rest of this canvas white.
Ooh. A white canvas.
I might scrumble, and we might have a Basquiat moment for those of you. There may be some whole journey that's happening now. And again, if you just want the black information, we're going to make min vids, about it. So isn't that nice? So that's sort of sketched in. It looks a little female now, but that's because the model actually has some very delicate features.
I was just saying, it looks like a graphic novel character right now.
Well, yeah, I have a tendency to.
You lean that way.
I do. It happens. I'm going to need more Quinn Red in life. I've got a smaller brush now. And that's just so I can sort of pay attention to more of the details. So I'm going to go back and come in and start thinking about more of these little detail pieces. And one of the things that would help me is if John flipped that image, so what it is I flip the image in my head, but it's not flipped in life, so I'm having to constantly reverse it, which definitely adds an element of challenge. And also, I'm not trying to create a portrait of what I'm looking at, but I'm trying to create a piece that is emotive. And I think that that's important.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that there's going to be a dark shadow there in the corner of this eye, and that's really great to start putting in. And then same thing here. And I'm just looking at tonality, and some of these mixes in this what's wonderful about this is sometimes the mixes will be more red or more green, and then as I lighten it up, and it'll seem like there's a lot more colors involved in the piece than actually are. I'm going to go ahead and exacerbate this circle down here.
Whew.
And I'm just going to be using this reference. This is a good reference for me, John, because it's so whimsical, so it doesn't hold me to anything in particular.
Okay. So,
which I'm liking, and, who doesn't like that?
There's a bunch of really good questions coming in here.
Oh, please. I can paint an answer. It doesn't even hurt. And I'll talk about what I'm doing, and you guys can kind of see that. And those of you that are like, dude, I could probably get my brutish thing. I'm creating the shadow. A nose is painted in the shadow And so there's always going to be shadow under the nose and then around the nostril area. That is always going to be true. And often right here there'll be a shadow. And as you paint those shadows, your nose will always start to take some shape.
So here's DJ Divine has a question. If the Sherpa had a superpower, what would it be?
I do have a superpower. I can daily paint.
And you punch evil in the face with it.
and I punch evil in the face every day. Punch it in the face. I get up and I'm like, what am I going to do today? Punch evil in the face.
Everyone was joking about that. I think that's great. We're talking to Chuck about getting a shirt
So
for
I'm
that.
looking for these shadows on this face.
But seriously, what superpower would you have?
Little tip whenever you're doing face work is don't draw a defined jawline. That flattens your piece. Shade a jawline. Shade it, shade it, shade it.
Would you be the magic eraser? What superpower would the Sherpa choose?
Magic eraser. That's now my superpower?
I don't know. I'm trying to find out what art superhero names would be. There's got to be some puns in there, I'm sure.
And I like being kind of rough and sketchy. I like not having tidy brush strokes. This is, you're now kind of in my old space. Here you go. Hit that highlight. Hit a highlight here. Come along this with a nice highlight. Create some little definitions there. It's fun to do. It's good work if you can get it.
Yeah. They want to know. Seriously, though, flight, speed, what would you have?
Flight, speed? If I, like, it just anything?
Superpower. What superpower would you have?
Dude, full on Phoenix. I'm not control. I want to be like Xavier. Yeah, definitely either healing or psionic powers. I mean, that's just generally how I game. I always like to game kind of more characters that you would maybe not perceive as being particularly epic, and then I like to play their weaknesses to their strengths.
Yeah.
Just in my personal thing. I'm not making.
I guess it's also different. So whether you're going to have a role-playing game character that's going to have superpowers, or whether it's going to be you with superpowers.
Me superpowers.
Yeah, because you with superpowers.
I would still, if I'm getting to pick, I would actually like not want to be like, I don't want to be the Hulk on the block. I want to be the person who's like working for it, I guess. That probably has something to do with, how I am and, how I relate to stuff.
Yeah.
I'd want to be able to help people for sure. I mean, I would absolutely take on superpowers and I would totally help people. I don't know, I would be like all hitch about it, like all torn up and stuff, but
yeah, it'd be hard to not like choose like I would have invulnerability and then I would go right all the wrongs in the world.
yeah.
But
Hard to know what those are though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Hard to know what's right for another person. It's challenging.
Although I might choose the mutant power of having an extra set of hands, because then I could just make more videos and then I could punch evil in the face more. Because that's a pretty good mutant power.
Punch evil in the face even more?
With more videos.
With more videos.
But actually having an extra set of hands might not be bad.
Strengthen up this chin.
That'd be kind of cool.
And this is interesting how it's going. So I'm just doing this with these with this chromatic black.
Uh-huh.
I'm just doing this with chromatic black. I'm not changing the world here, but it seems like there's a lot more color going on here than there is, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
And that's sort of nice. I'm not even using any blenders. And one of the nice things, if you just embrace the roughness of a piece, then you don't have to worry so much about your blenders. I'm just working at the shadows here. Working them out. That's what you do. You work them out.
So everyone's like, this is going to be so interesting. There's half the people who are like, well, show us what she's doing on it. And then there's other people like, oh, it could be a surprise.
We want to be surprised. Well, no, I'm not actually painting what I'm seeing as much as using it just as a reference
Well, no, it's really interesting how you're using it as a.
Yeah, I'm just using this as a reference. I'm not actually trying. This is a very famous character, and I want to approach this very differently, and I wouldn't do it in this manner if I was just trying to do a portrait of this guy.
Oh.
And again, I don't consider myself a portrait artist, though I can do portraits.
So
But I would never, like, put out my shingle and say, portraits for sale.
So Joanne is late. She's going to have to go start at the very beginning.
You gotta bring
Rewind.
donuts,
Oh,
Joanne.
you have to bring donuts for everyone. That's right. I forgot. If you're late to the live, you have to bring donuts for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And right now we have 194 people in here, so I hope you've got a lot of virtual
194
donuts.
people, and you're like, why are we painting this crazy ugly face? Because it teaches us something.
So you're grabbing some white and then just scrumbling that in there.
I'm what?
You just grabbed some white there and just started scrumbling.
Yeah, I am. I'm just saying there's a highlight here.
Okay.
Right? One of the wonderful things in art is that everything doesn't need to be beautiful. Everything doesn't need to tell a happy story. One of our good friends and community members was talking about sometimes it's nice just to paint something that isn't happy.
Yeah.
Because that's not really life, is it?
No.
We're not happy like all of the time.
I work on it.
Yeah, John works on it.
I want that. Actually, if I could have any superpower, actually it would be a job. I would want that happy man job.
Oh gosh, that's a good job. I
That
want
was
the
a-
happy man job too.
So that was me. What was that? What was that series?
That was Meet the Natives.
That's what I thought it was.
On the Travel Channel. Maybe one of the best shows like ever put on anywhere.
You should definitely check that out. It was cool. There's a dude who had a job, happy man. His whole thing was to help keep the village happy, and I think that's like the best job in the world.
You could possibly have, right?
Yeah.
It's the best job that you could possibly have. Just mixing some more black here, just pulling it out as I have it. And, you know, again, it's chromatic. Ooh, this eye is looking all...
It's looking at you. It reminds me of your of the old paintings you did, where you had the creepy people who look at
They
you.
weren't creepy.
I know.
That jaw would be just like, they're creepy. I'm like, don't diminish my work. They're more than creepy. But the thing is like...
They're Halloweeny.
Sometimes, you know, you've got to be...
Stark.
I've got to just resolve... when the eyes resolve, the piece will come together in this way that...
Right now,
they got a bit of an alien thing
they
going
do.
on.
You got a thing happening there with that eye. But I kind of feel like you're just waiting to finish that off. So
I am. That's just in there.
You're just
going,
leaving
there's
that.
some eyes here, and I'm resolving other things.
you're messing with. See that way you.
I am totally messing with everybody.
You're like you're because you know we're all going to be looking at that eye, going, "What's with the eye? Fix it."
Yeah. But here's the thing, like, whereas for a lot of people, it might feel like their piece is not at all working in any way. I'm not that worried about it. Again, because it's not necessary to try to make everything beautiful every minute of the day.
There's some good guesses, and I can see why they're close. But
What?
Who they're guessing and
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
No. This doesn't look anything like that guy.
No, not yet. But I mean, who they're guessing it is, I can see why they see it, and like it, like when it all comes together, like so they're right now they're guessing Johnny Depp and the Mad Hatter, and like I can see why.
I see why, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and when they see who it is, they'll be like, oh, well, yeah, totally makes sense. Why?
I don't know. We're going to show them. I think sometimes, and here's a feeling that I have, but you don't have to do that. Sometimes using your reference, don't show people your reference, because then they'll have an opinion about the reference and your work in relationship to the reference, when really the reference was maybe just like what I'm doing here, which is just a place card for what's going on. You know? Create that highlight up the bridge of that nose.
But it's going to be really interesting at the end just to be able to talk about
I just have to decide, like, am I going to do, like, the stuff I'm seeing, or
Why not?
what am I gonna?
What are you gonna do? I like
don't-
the zombies there behind
I
you.
don't
that
know.
see.
Now I'm in. Now I've started it, and I've all sketched it. And
You're
now
like-
it's at
you're
that
like-
weird stage.
Well, I'll
Not
just
that
say,
this painting was ever going to get out of its weird stage. It was always going to be in its weird stage. Some dark here. I've got a small detail brush. And now we've got to start talking about
Yeah,
what
talk
we're
about that
looking at
eye.
here. And I don't want to take the distortion completely out.
you like that kind of.
Huh?
You like that.
The distortion?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I won't lie to y'all.
This is if you saw any of her historic work, you would see why this is very her. Like the stronger cheekbones, the exaggerated structures.
What are you going to do?
What are you gonna do? So like if you were, I remember like she used to draw all of these figures, and they all look like they were like savant martial artists, like all kickboxers, and like they had these shins of iron because they all had exaggerated bone structure. So it was just, I always thought like,
Yeah, the shins of iron. There was the whole year of the shins of iron.
yeah, it was just like everything looked like you like they just kicked trees their entire lives. Just whack, 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 whack.
And they were all like this.
Yeah, they were.
I'm not saying living at home is stressful.
So we have tipped into the 1 hour time, but
I'm
that's okay.
sorry.
We have the shorter one. If you're looking for the shorter quest, it's in the iCard, and
Oh, yeah. We're going to film like a shorter version of just the blacks and just the chromatics, just the information.
just the information. You'll have that up in the iCard.
The
here
only
shortly.
reason we're doing that on this one is because I found that there was just very little collected information.
Yeah.
But you guys had kind of asked about, like, what could you do with this? And so I thought I would just show you, like, what you could do with it. If you were gonna
Yeah.
do something.
I think that's so. It's so cool.
Is it getting a little craze?
It's awesome.
All right. So that's,
loving it.
that's what you want. You want that intensity. You want that extreme point of view,
Well,
don't you?
I do, and I think that especially as they understand the subject matter selected, that
They'll be
your-
like,
your
oh, what was
exaggeration.
that?
Yeah, it so matches.
I don't know that it matches. Again, not portraiture.
No, but
I don't put my shingle out as a portrait artist,
I-
even though I do self-portraits, or I'll do portraits of friends and stuff.
I like
or
this one.
Bunny.
Actually, this is like I'm gonna hang on to this one for just me because I like it.
Really?
Yeah.
It's such a weird piece. This is a piece I would normally just sew over.
Except that I'm gonna jack it.
Not because I feel bad about it, but because it's just me thinking about stuff. And once I've worked it out,
I'm actually I know people who, some friends of ours who would probably might arm wrestle me for this one.
really?
Yeah.
Ew.
I can think of a handful of people. I'm not gonna out them.
You're not going to out them?
I'm not gonna out them.
You're not gonna
They're
out 'em.
collectors of yours.
Huh?
They're collectors of your work.
Oh. Did they get my other face?
No, I don't know if they've gotten faces of yours before. I know lots of people who like your stuff. So now tell us about what are you using here to get your blacks?
What do you mean?
Yeah, so someone just said, John, is she using different blacks or just one?
I am literally just using a chromatic black. If you missed it in the beginning of the quest, a chromatic black is a black created by mixing two color paints together and using no black pigments. So this particular mix is phthalo blue and quinacridone red, and then I'm using white to create the grayscales. I haven't actually applied any black to this painting.
Cool, okay.
Just saying. But right now, I'm just trying to create the drama. Drama on my painting, but not in my life. Create the drama that is this piece, right? That's what I want to do. I want to create drama that's the piece.
I love how you're leaving the other eye just completely undone. So I'm just like,
I'm just not over there yet.
I know, but it's like,
But you guys get what I'm saying about this sort of like intense. Ah!
Okay, so whoa, there's a mouthful of question happening here.
Okay, I'm so happy to answer. I want to answer any of your
Yeah,
questions because I just think that this is fun, and if I can help you get going on some of this, that would be amazing.
No, see, they're messing with me now because they're asking me to pronounce things that it's just like, oh, you know me. All right, so I'm gonna dive into this. And Georgia,
All right, just do an
thank you,
omnibus
Georgia.
since
It says,
we're here anyways.
if you now, I just have to work my way through this. If you do a chromatic, if you do chromatically, can you mix up your back end with polyethylene and quinacridone and ultra/umber?
There are several chromatic mixes. You could. I haven't seen a phthalo blue mix like posted out there, but I'm sure there is one. What you're trying to do is do color theory. So often if colors are on opposite ends of the wheel. So we do a similar one with phthalo blue and burnt sienna, don't we? Where we get all those grays in different values. That's more of a chromatic gray than a chromatic black. Ultramarine leans more into the chromatic blacks. Like one of your best chromatic blacks is going to be ultramarine blue and cad red deep. Right? But really, what is that about? That's about blue and orange. Right?
Gotcha.
And the deep values of those together. And you see how we have no actual black in this, but it feels like we might kind of have some.
So, how many recipes are there for black?
As many as there are artists. Every artist I know has got some. This is like how people like all have like some cookie recipe from their family that's going on. In my experience, artists have chromatic recipes and a way that they get there that's theirs. And
man,
I wouldn't say one is better than another.
There's some good guesses happening out here. I
What?
like it. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I can totally see why that's being guessed at. There were a couple others that were making me laugh. Oh, Boy George. It's like, oh yeah, I can see
I
that.
could actually probably pull off Boy George looking like
No,
Boy George.
I love this painting. This is really doing good.
You really love
I
this
do.
painting? All right, show of hands. Who loves this crazy painting?
Oh,
What are
everybody's
we doing
totally.
here?
So let me put it this way: there's 185 people out here who are totally hanging out. If you like this painting, give us a little thumbs up in there. And so right now we got 161 thumbs up in here. I imagine we're gonna see a lot more.
Now,
So if
it's
you're
not
there in
that
the
I
audience, give
can't
us a
do
thumbs
real
up.
pretty girls. You guys have seen me in the...
191 people. See, it just jumped up. You just asked, and they said, "Yes, we
You
love
guys
you."
are
Sherpa."
amazing. Thank you for the likes. This is, hopefully people will get their information and hang in and, enjoy, what they've got going on.
Oh, there's so many cool emojis. I wish I could just. Actually, I'm going to drag this over so you can just see something.
You want me just to see it? I gotta paint.
I'm going to see the wall. Look at the wall of emojis.
I am such the Lucille Ball. Like John always laughs because I always get myself in some project that I shouldn't have gotten myself into.
Lean over there. Look at the wall of emojis just coming up for you. Do you see them?
Oh my gosh, guys! John's showing me comments. They're really tiny, so he's made sure that the font's so small I can't read it. But I see the emojis.
I took it away. So she will paint, Sherpa.
Work.
Paint.
Works. So I'm just taking my phthalo. I'm just constantly mixing, my chromatic black here.
Okay, so now it's
This
really
is just
happening.
such a... Now, if I had done the burnt sienna and the burnt umber, this piece would be much cooler in its temperature. Right?
So you can look up now.
So there's a portrait thing to do where you use like blue, black, and another color like Mars Violet. And, I want to do that so bad and white. That's like 3 colors, but you get all these skin tones from it. It's insane. And actually, I could do it a little bit with this if, I thought to. But I'm right now going to just put this in and try to get this the way the extreme expression that I'm currently witnessing. I want to try to capture in the extreme eyeline that I'm seeing, that I'm witnessing. So it's just a matter of getting those values laid in. So a lot of times I'll sketch, I got an eyeball here, scrumble, scrumble, and I got an eyeball over there, scrumble, scrumble, and then I come back later to refine whatever it was I was even looking at. I don't even...
Let's see if I can do something over here real quick. Because you can just see this wall of emojis.
Yeah, I see the wall of them. Did you bring it back? He's so funny. He'll show
Look at
me
that.
for like a minute, and then he'll be like, no. You can kind of see we're getting the second
I can
eye
even do
in
this.
now. And I've got to really probably pull it down a bit. And that's just me making adjustments. Pulling it down and open a bit.
The blue guy from X-Men. Beast.
No, what I'd say is this is not a accurate representation of the
Well,
model.
no, when you get when we get there, they're totally gonna see it. Like you just have it put in the last little bits, and like I'm loving
I just
this.
wanted to use it because the expression was so intense.
Well, I chose it because I liked it.
John chose it because he liked it. He was like, "Oh yeah, this is cool."
Can we have a hint or a clue as to who it is? Nope.
It won't take me that long to finish this up, guys.
Yeah,
Don't
we're
worry. You're
close.
not here for another 3 hours. I just want to show you how fun and easy this is. I want to do something where I'm show you kind of the beautiful side of portrait work, but it's also okay to just participate on the rougher, brutish side of portrait work. Is also always okay. Maybe move this down a little bit because I want these to both be kind of extremed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want the extreme. And then I'm going to sit there and say, all right, here, and then shadow, shadow, shadow. I need my shadow, shadow, shadow.
Shadow.
Shadow, shadow, shadow. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Shadow, shadow. This is a bit more of a psychological piece.
Everyone's they're all going for the superheroes. Is it Joker?
It's a Joker. No, no, this is not fan art. I don't mess around with fan art because you don't want to make fans mad.
Yeah. Well, this is fan art for me.
I guess that is fan art for you.
I have his deck of cards. There's a hint. That's not a good hint, is it?
Really enjoying all this.
Yeah, I do. I like it too.
I'm just having sort of a blast now, guys. Now it's turned into a painting. So sometimes what happens to you guys, unfortunately, is that I start to enjoy myself when I'm working on a project, and then you get kidnapped into it. So in my eyeballs, one of the things that I'm always doing, I've talked about it before on these eyes, is I'm always shading. I'm always shading the ocular space. Because that helps, create what we're kind of looking for, along there in those extreme value changes are uber important. Just trying to make sure that I've got this represented in the way that I want it to be. And sometimes you got to go back and I got to rethink this space right here. And then as you rethink it, then you're given but this is right there. I'll pop that in, and then that's the corner I want to highlight.
There's been there's lots of really good guesses, and somebody's gotten it in chat, so I'm not going to say who it is. But
somebody got it? No.
Oh yeah.
There's no way from what I'm doing that anybody got this ever.
But there's all of them have been really good guesses, and you can see why some of them have been coming in because it's like
if you're guessing on the replay, don't put pressure on yourself because this is not.
It wasn't the game. It was just now it's a game I'm playing.
It's just, oh my goodness, this is so funny. So I'm using the values to create the eye drama that we would be seeing here.
That's cool.
And just trying to catch those important parts of the eye that are there.
So, do you? I'm thinking that George is just joining us because she hasn't seen the earlier part of this painting. Do you still struggle with the awkward phase of your painting?
Awkward phase. What does that mean?
Well, that the the ugly phase, that where you're like, you've got something that's.
Oh yeah, every artist on the planet struggles with it. Just some of us know that it'll go away.
You just got to soldier on.
Just everybody deals with awkward painting. Everybody. And that is part of art. Happens to the whole group of us. Some people are better at whipping through that stage real fast.
Yeah.
Like, they're just really good at getting through the awkward stage super quickly, but it doesn't mean they're not having it. It just means that they're resolving it real fast. I'm just pulling this up. This eye to me is like, it's important how these two eyes relate to each other a little bit, and so they're intense and in a little like whatever, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling that in, and now we have these kind of creepy, weird eyes. And John isn't allowed to keep this painting, even though I think he's going to be allowed to.
I like it a lot.
Huh?
I like it.
I don't know why you do.
Because you managed to capture.
Huh?
Because I like how you captured the.
But you should always just kind of take risks. Don't let this warn you off of risks. Because you should always be up for risks. You should always be like, yeah, I'm up for some risks. Okay, I can't resist doing it, so I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Because it's going to please John so much if I go ahead and go for the full kit and caboodle.
Oh yeah, what are you using there?
Just my phthalo green and still my quinacridone red to make my deep black.
Okay, so you're not using any black paint there?
No black paint has been used in this painting at all. This is entirely chromatic black, which means black I mix. We're going to see how I pull this off. Now, normally I would leave this out.
Because you were just using this as a reference for the...
But John is having so much fun with it that I have decided to indulge him. And include this part of what's happening.
Now everyone's seeing it. They're like, oh.
Now they see it.
Oh well, there was there was a bunch of people that were debating on whether or not this was going to be Houdini or Dali, and I could see both.
I think Dolly would be okay with how I chose to paint him here.
Well, no, I mean it's totally like if you.
I think he would be like, yes, yes. You understand me.
And that's why I liked. I picked Dali because I like him, and a lot of his work, and actually was one of my favorite artists before I discovered Brancusi, and so.
How you like it, babe?
I love it. I think that's great. But you know what? I can totally see that Dali could have been cast as the Joker.
Sure.
And would have totally pulled it off with panache and flair.
I think would have to have. All right.
I love it. I think that's so cool.
Just a weird.
All right, so that was fun for me. And 210 of our friends who've hung out with 193 likes. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of people who seem to have enjoyed this painting with me. So thank you guys. I'm going to say thank you for hanging out. Ian is like, paint the bell women in the background.
Dude, I can do Dolly all day. Been to the museum.
Do some melted clocks.
Love his stuff. Think he's a genius. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. But, you know, I mean, here's the thing. Let's just like, just jump in. Just go forward. Just never. There's no black in that painting, but clear. It feels like there is, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
And yet it has all this color and all this energy and all this space. And now normally, again, John gets to keep it, but normally I would just gesso over this. You at home don't feel like you can't. But just go ahead and get in and get rough and get crazy. And if you're interested in more stuff on how faces are constructed and face math and stuff like that, we're going to be covering that soon. Including how to do milk eyes and lunar moths and how to put some of those more popular ephemeral pieces together, because I know a lot of people really want to know how to do that kind of Jasmine Beckwith kind of effect and stuff like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about
Oh yeah.
journal faces and fantasy faces. And
We had one more request here though.
Oh, I got
Sherpa dance. Can we get a Sherpa dance? And if you're at home, you should get up and do your dance too. That way we all get our little exercises in. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Do a Sherpa shuffle. Get fit.
blacks. Now you understand.
Okay. Now you know your blacks.
Big Art Quest. If this is your first time here, thank you for coming. I hope you'll do the rest of the quests. They're all kind of like this. And now I hope you guys go into the art store and you're like, yeah, the black thing, I get it now. Totally easy.
Yeah.
And see you guys at the easel really soon.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.